Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
We have
Hare
to
Krishna.
understand that there's
Hare Krishna.
creation, and creation implies there is a creator. Unlike the atheistic
Hare
Kapila,
Krishna.
actually we should
Hare Krishna.
explain
Hare Krishna.
there are two Kapilas. One is the atheist Kapila, and the atheist Kapila is well known. The theist, the Devahuti Putra, the Kapila who we know, is not very well known at all. It's only with Srila Prabhupada coming and introducing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam to the world that we're starting to hear about the theist Kapila and his teaching of Sankhya. Now the atheist Kapila, he's also teaching Sankhya, but he's teaching atheistic Sankhya. He's teaching life comes from chemicals. We say, no, we say life comes from life. But the atheists, even though they are philosophers and they can speak their Sankhya philosophy, they say life comes from chemicals. So, of course, this is Srila Prabhupada's very powerful preaching field, one of the very powerful points which Prabhupada was propagating and presenting the Krishna conscious philosophy. And Prabhupada formed his Bhaktivedanta Institute with this in mind, that they will preach to the scientists and explain to them that life does not come from chemicals. And there's no example of life coming from chemicals. So, So in this chapter 26, Lord Kapila is presenting the analysis of the different elements in the material creation and the sense objects. The sense objects. Touch and form and taste. Touch, form, sound also. Sound, touch, form, taste, and one more. Aroma or smell. So these are the sense objects. And Lord Kapila's is explaining them to us, how they can be identified and their different characteristics. Just like in this verse today, we're hearing about form. So form can be understood by three things: by dimension, quality, and individuality. Dimensions, form, dimension. Something is very big, very long, or very short. That's a dimension. Do we need translation? Huh? Do you do translate? You do class in Tamil every day, yeah?
Afternoon we can. Now everybody understands.
Okay. Okay, so dimension, the size of something. Then the quality of form. Different forms will have different qualities. Some will be hard, some will be soft. A quality may be bright, may be dull. Quality. And then individuality, forms, individuals. Every individual person has some form, has some particular physical dimension. We have qualities. We have our own individuality. So Lord Kapila is explaining these different sense objects and their different characteristics to us, to devotee. Why? Because we want to understand the nature of everything in this world. We have to understand everything in its relationship to the Supreme Lord. There are specific characteristics related to everything in this world. Nothing is by chance. Just like an artist will paint a picture and they will show something in the picture, they will create some form, they will portray a form in their painting. So forms are there, but Prabhupada talks there's also invisible forms. Not all forms are visible. Some things are invisible, but they have a form. We could think of things, what things are invisible but have forms?
Mind.
The mind? Yeah, we don't see the mind. Mind is a subtle element, right? There are subtle elements in the creation. We generally think invisible things, we will think evil spirits or ghosts, yes, we'll think like that. They have some form, but they're not visible. Sometimes we will speak about the invisible man. Some things are not seen. Consciousness is not seen, but it's exhibited. It's one of the subtle aspects of the living entity. So there are so many living entities, and they all have different forms. And the Lord created these different forms. We know there are 84 lakh species of life. And the Lord created them just for the satisfaction of the desires of every living entity. The human life is especially given for self-realization. of all the different forms, the human life is special, because in the human form of life, we have the opportunity to investigate the absolute truth. And if we don't use our time to investigate the absolute truth, then we waste our time in this material world. So Lord Kapila is speaking to Devahuti. He's explaining to her the nature of everything in this world, all the different elements, how they each have their particular characteristics and their forms. Even sound also. Sound doesn't have any visible form, right? We know sound, the finest element. Srila Prabhupada heard a statement from a book called it was called some Christian Bible thing, an earlier edition. I'm forgetting the name of that book now. But anyway, in that book it had said, in the beginning was the Word. If you ever read the Bible, maybe you'll come across that. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. So when Prabhupada heard this statement, he said, yes, he said, we agree with this. This is our philosophy, that everything comes from sound. Sound is the finest element. Right? If we study the creation, as it's described here by Lord Kapila in Srimad Bhagavatam, the creation comes about from sound. With sound, there is the creation of ether. And with sound, there's also the ear is created, because you have to hear. So this is the beginning of the creation. And then the next element from sound, next there is air. First, after sound, sound is in the ether. There's nothing but ether. There's only sound within the ether. And after ether, the next element is air. And with air, there is a creation of touch. Just like the fan. When you turn on the fan, then you feel the air, right? The touch of the air. And you can feel cold air or hot air. So with air, there comes a creation of touch. And how do we perceive that sense of touch? How do we, huh? No. Touch is perceived by the skin. Our skin will feel the touch, right? The skin is one of our senses. The sense of touch is experienced through the skin. And after air, then next comes fire. And with fire, there is form, right? Form. We have a little ghee wick, and you have a big blazing fire. They have a different form. And for form, in order to perceive form, what organ do we need? Eyes. We have eyes to see the form, right? So you can, then after the fire, then the next element is water. From fire comes water. And with water, we have taste. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the taste in water. So, water with taste, how do we taste something? Only through the tongue, right? No other sense can perceive taste. but the tongue can taste. And then after water, then comes about earth, the final element. And with earth, then you have aroma. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the original fragrance of the earth. So the different aromas, the different sensations, they come originally from the earth, from the ground. And with earth, then to smell something, we have the nose. I can't smell anything. I'm so blocked up with cold, I can't smell anything. But you know, if you're in a healthy condition, you can smell things. I had the experience, I was staying in one devotee's room, and he washed the floor with cow urine. I could smell it. Very powerful. But anyway, from this analysis of the different elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, you can see the connection between the different sense objects. Taste. Taste comes from? Taste. How do we, what sense do we taste things with? The tongue, right, the tongue. And so taste, touch, perceived by the skin, and form, right. Taste, touch, form, smell, the nose, and one more? Sound. Yeah, the original, the first one, sound. So when we present creation in this way, then people can see how very systematic the whole creation is. 5 elements, 5 senses, and 5 sense objects. These things are all created. So Sankhya philosophy is explaining these things, how the creation comes about, and the characteristics of these different sense objects and the senses, the elements, their different characteristics. And when you understand these things, put it all together, you can see how scientific the whole creation is. You know, common people, they think, oh, there's no God in charge, everything just came about by chance. And even foolish scientists promote theories that the world came about by chance, just by the interaction of some chemicals, life came about. But when we hear from Lord Kapila, and we hear the nature of the different elements and their characteristics and everything, then you see how scientific everything is, and how it's very systematic. It begins with sound. So, Prabhupada was hearing this from a book called the Aquarian Gospel. I remember the name of the book now, it's called Aquarian Gospel. And Prabhupada, you know, he liked that statement, that everything came from sound. And he was explaining how this is the Vedic philosophy, that everything comes about by sound. So, of course, in Krishna consciousness, sound is very important for us. With the Bhakti Yoga process begins with sound, begins with Shravana. First we have to hear, right? We have to hear about Krishna. We cannot do any real bhakti without first hearing. Lord Krishna says in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, now hear, O Arjuna, how by practicing yoga you can know me and free from doubt. So hearing, very, very important for us in Bhakti Yoga. And hearing is important for every living entity. We need to use our ears. It will protect us. We become aware. Dangers in the material world. People drive motorbikes and motor cars. They have horns, right? They beat their horns. You know, I'm coming, out of my way. And if we don't hear them coming, it's dangerous. You can be knocked over. So many vehicles. When we hear, seeing is one thing, but when you hear, then you take it very seriously. So hearing is the first element, take the sense objects. Here we're hearing about form. Form is being discussed. The form of something. And Srila Prabhupada enlightens us about the nature of form. Of course, forms in the material world are all temporary. They're creation for some time and they diminish, they grow, we go through different stages. We take birth, we grow for some time, then you produce some byproducts, and then gradually the body dwindles and one day you die. So that's the way of the material world. Different forms. Our forms are not eternal in the material world. But in the spiritual world, there is eternal form. And the form in the spiritual world is Satchit Ananda. By nature, it is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And we know, of course, Lord Krishna, he has the supreme, all-attractive form. And his form is eternally youthful. He is Navayovana. He never gets old. You see, in material life, every one of us will get old. Every day you get a little older. But in the spiritual world, people are all the same age. They're not aging. Aging is the phenomena in the material world. And that aging is shown by the dwindling of the material forms. Just like we're putting up a building for the devotees here. So now we're putting up the building, but how long will the building last? Once it's built, we have to maintain it. We'll maintain it for some time, and then after some decades, we'll say, oh, now the building's very old. We should knock it down, put up a new building. So it's the nature of the material forms. They're temporary. But in the spiritual world, there is eternal form. So we want to liberate ourselves from this. We'd like to get out from this material world and just simply be with Lord Krishna and enjoy life of eternal bliss and knowledge. All right, so are there any questions? Yes?
Krishna Guru Maharaj, so we understand that in the original, the sound is spiritual, and then it becomes material when it comes to the material world. And with our tongue, with our material tongue and with our material mouth, we can also vibrate sound. When do we understand that sound transcends from material to the spiritual?
When the sound is related to Krishna, then it becomes spiritual. When the sound vibration is for the service of Lord Krishna and to glorify Lord Krishna, then it is spiritual. Everything becomes spiritualized in relation to Krishna. So sound is also like that. When we're speaking topics of Krishna, that is transcendental sound. And when we're talking mundane things, then it's Gramya Katha. It's Prajalpa. It's not transcendental. Right? So, pure spiritual sound is the nature of the spiritual world. And our Krishna conscious centers are meant for promoting spiritual sound. The spiritual sound vibration of the holy name is beneficial for everyone. And not only the chanting of the holy name, but the glorification of the Supreme Lord. It is all transcendental, it is all spiritual. So it's very pleasing to the ear and to the heart to hear the sound of Krishna and the topics of Lord Krishna. Satam prasanga mama virya samvido bhavanti ridkarana rasayana katha. Later on, we'll hear, or maybe already we passed it in the previous chapter, chapter 25, Lord Kapila had said to his mother that topics of Lord Krishna, when heard in the association of devotees, are very pleasing to the ear and to the heart. So the idea is we have to hear carefully that the sound vibration should enter the heart. You know, we don't just simply let things drift into the ear and out the other ear. We want to focus the topics of Krishna to the heart and give pleasure to the heart. Why? Why the heart? Because Krishna is in the heart. Krishna likes to hear the holy name. He likes to hear the glorification of his devotees. It's pleasing to him. Okay, any other question? Yes?
Maharaj, they say that the eyes is the vision is the most dangerous weapon to falling down, because when you see, that is when the sense get gratified and then people fall down. So how far is this true, Maharaj? Can you enlighten on this? Among all the five senses, they say eyes is the most dangerous.
Eyes?
The vision is more dangerous. They say that just by looking, one gets attracted to the sense gratification. So, something on that.
Well, Rati Mataji is saying the eyes are the most dangerous. We know Bilva Mangal thought like that, right? There's a pastime of Bilva Mangal that he was attracted to the beautiful form of the women, and so at one point he took some pin from the lady's hair and took out his eyes, and he thought, these eyes are my enemy. But Bhagavad Gita said any one of the senses is sufficient to carry with the way the mind, even of a person of discrimination. So any one of the senses which are not properly controlled, you may get rid of your eyes, it doesn't mean you won't fall down. You know, people who have no eyes, they can also be very lusty, and they can be very attracted to sense gratification. So not only the eyes.
Maharaj, can we say that, like in method of instruction, it says amongst the tongue is the most voracious amongst the senses?
Yes, well, the tongue, we say, it's the most difficult to control. Of all the senses, the tongue is the most difficult to control, because we use the tongue to taste and to speak. And so it's very active. We're very busy in these things, tasting and speaking. So, yes, the tongue is very voracious. And to control it, we have to have strict discipline. And that is why in the Krishna consciousness movement, there's a discipline about eating. We should not eat non-vegetarian food. We should try to eat Krishna prasadam. That is one way of controlling the tongue, to eat Krishna prasadam. And we should also be very cautious about speaking. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kirtaniya Sadahari, always chant the holy name. The chanting of the holy name will help us to control the tongue. We have to get the taste for the chanting of the holy name. And Kirtan, of course, is also very, very powerful to help us to engage the tongue. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Kirtan is the safest place in the 14 worlds. So, we're worried about falling down, so the safest place is to be engaged in Kirtan. If we keep ourselves busy in Kirtan, then you won't fall down. And we see devotees who are very active in Kirtan. How? They're never troubled by Maya because they're so busy, always having Kirtan. Yes?
Maharaj, how do you get taste for chanting the holy name? Like, for me, I've been chanting since I was a young child, but I'm still forcing myself that I have to chant and it's good for me. How do I want to chant, get taste for chanting?
How do you get more taste for chanting? Well, association is very helpful. If you have good association, other people are also chanting. And then you have nobody to talk to. You see? If you see everyone else is chanting, and they say, don't talk to me, I'm trying to chant, then you will also chant. You start to chant. You have to make it a habit. You have to, just like the example is given about the person with jaundice. You know, when you get jaundice and you have to drink sugar cane, it doesn't taste very nice. You don't like it very much because your liver is not healthy. So you cannot taste the real nectar of the sugar cane. But if you keep drinking it, then gradually you get better. So the same way with the holy name. You don't have much taste for the holy name, but keep chanting anyway. And gradually you'll awaken the taste. I said also kirtan is very important. If you do more kirtan, that's also very good for you, to help you. Do more kirtan, and will help you to get a taste for chanting. And then we see many devotees, they come for kirtan, they don't come for japa. When we have japa, when we have class, oh no, they don't want that. But kirtan mela, so many people come, they like kirtan. So they need more kirtan. Problem is they don't get enough kirtan. If they got more kirtan, then it would lead to their chanting of the holy name. The real taste of, the real success of their kirtan is when they start to chant the holy name. Kirtan is not just some musical performance. Often people come to Kirtan Mela, they're more interested in the musical performance. But what is important is the chanting of the holy name. We never had Kirtan Melas when Prabhupada was here. I remember one time in Mayapur, they'd organized, it was a a kirtan contest, you know, and they had different kirtan groups come from different villages, Bengalis and like that, and they were doing kirtan. And Prabhupada said, this is all nonsense. I said, stop. So, real kirtan, it's not just a musical performance. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati didn't worry about the musical performance. He wanted the devotion, the bhakti, that's the important thing. So, chanting the holy name, you have to get more taste. You have to be patient. It's going to take time. You're a young girl, so keep chanting. Gradually, one day you'll get some taste. And now, while you're still young, you don't have so much taste. But if you keep chanting, as you grow older, you will develop more taste. Don't ever give up. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, we will stop here then. You had a question? Yeah?
Maharaj, so you explained that Lord Kapila instructed his mother how to overcome attachment. So Lord Kapila explained how scientific the whole creation is, the characteristics of different elements. So Lord Kapila is trying to explain all this and trying to make the mother get over from the attachment. So, but for us, even after understanding all these, how to overcome attachment?
Well, we have to replace the attachment for the material with the attachment for spiritual. Instead of being attached to the material, you have to become attached to the spiritual. Lord Kapila Dev told his mother, you have to get the shelter of a sadhu. Take shelter of a sadhu. Tatikshava karunika, and then Lord Kapila described the qualities of the sadhu. So this was the idea. Lord Kapila was telling Devahuti like that you have to become attached to the sadhu. Don't just become attached to the husband. Husband will certainly, he's temporary, he's not going to stay forever. We all take birth and one day we die. Devahuti's husband didn't die, but he left home, which was his duty, varnashram. He renounced, but he left her with the son. So she had the son to take shelter of and to hear from. So she became attached to the son. The son was the great, he's the Lord. So she became attached to him. So you change the attachment from the material to the spiritual. Right? Instead of being attached to television and tea and coffee, become attached to Krishna Prasadam and serving the deities. Okay? Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Narasimha Maharaj ki jai.